ask sort of a little sort of a personal question again. In terms of books, if you were to recommend a book to another leader in this sort of space, what book would you recommend and why?
Can I do a 3?
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Oh. So book number 1, Switch, How to Change When Change is Hard by Dan and Chip Heath. It's a wonderful anecdotal telling of how effective change has been accomplished. And I think it teaches one of the most valuable lessons that I've carried with me. So I read that book 12 years ago, something like that. And that made me want to become a change manager. And I did. And one of the lessons I took away from that, and I carry with me to this day, is to duplicate the bright spots. Find what works and make that work. I think too much of our industry and these conversations are dominated by these unhelpful cautionary tales. Don't become Nokia, don't become BlackBerry, these sorts of things. Like how could we even parse that to make it usable versus go look at what somebody's done right in your organization and see if that can be spread to the rest of the organization is a much smarter approach, I believe. And I've seen it be incredibly effective. The second book is a series of books, The Expanse, which is a sci-fi book series sort of set in our not so distant future, a couple hundred years from now, where we populate the solar system. Very grounded in reality, amazing storytelling. And I think too often we don't talk about fiction, but take the break. I love the audiobooks. I go out walking and I listen to them. And I have to say, I actually draw a ton of inspiration from these books directly back to what I'm doing. Because a lot of what we thought of as science fiction when I was young is our reality. We can have, we're doing this now. We're having a video conference from across the planet, right? So you can draw inspiration from good science fiction. And I think that sort of near future science fiction is great. And then the last one that I would say is The Principles by Ray Dalio. I had to read it long before it was sort of published as a book. When I went to work for Bridgewater, I read the PDF and all of the sort of the actual enumerated principles that they were at the time. But the culture that they created at Bridgewater couldn't immediately be transplanted to just any organization. But again, can draw a lot of inspiration for how to effectively respond to changing societal, economic, and technological conditions. So all 3 of those.
So first and foremost, I'm determined to start a book club up again, because I'm amazed at how many readers actually do read and love to discuss the books that they've read with others and sort of pass on that knowledge. So that's one thing I will be doing over the next 6 months. The second thing, I just want to pick up on your point about the sci-fi side and how fiction is often almost belittled, to be honest, in the business community. And I entirely agree that there are some books which ultimately define the way that we look and view things. And I'm going to put across a bit of a populist theory here, which, Ready Player One, which I read, years and years and years and years ago, was actually defining for me in my viewpoints and perspectives of where it could go and where it could take it. The Circle was another one by Dave Eggers. I remember reading that as well as a fictionalized account, and that was much more on the sort of the cultural and societal perspectives of control that social media platforms would have. And I remember actually at the time, and I think you may have seen it, I remember I'd read it and finished it, and I then read a couple of thoughts by Adam Newman at WeWork, and it was the inspiration of the I think relatively seminal article, which was The Cult of WeWork. And it was at the time when WeWork was flying high, and I was just like, this is all complete bullshit. And I just cannot believe that people are not seeing past it. And even then, I remember referring to references that WeWork employees were quoting about, the life of WeWorkers. And then this Dave Eggers book and the culture that was built in the sort of, imaginary company and this sort of, cultish like company that was had. And I was just like, my God, it's like the same thing. So I'm with you that that fictionalized accounts can wholeheartedly inspire and determine the way that that you look at the industry. So, amen to that.